Mario has been our best friend since childhood. If you think this is an exaggeration, you're missing something really special. But do you know, besides Miyamoto, there was one man without him Mario wouldn't be possible? He was a janitor in the Nintendo office, and he saved the company from bankruptcy. Want to know about this legend? Then stick to the end of the video. The phrase leaving luck to heaven, or putting one's fortune in the hands of fate, is sometimes used to describe the use of the word Nintendo. Some claim that the history of the firm is not taken into consideration in these interpretations or translations, though. Without a question, it is one of the biggest names in gaming. Everywhere in the globe, Nintendo Co. Limited and its works are instantly identifiable. Many people experience nostalgia when hearing the names Bowser, Yoshi, Luigi, Samus, Kirby, Zelda, and, of course, Mario. These names conjure up wonderful memories of adventures spent adventuring through fantastical worlds full of wonder, sprinkled with innocent childlike humor and surprises galore on genuinely iconic gaming systems. In addition to taxis, hotel chains, TV networks, cuisine, toys, arcades, home computers, gaming, and handhelds, Nintendo has dabbled in a wide range of businesses. Having witnessed the growth and fall of goods, industries, and trends, this tale keeps coming back to life each time a new product creates a new industry. A 29-year-old Japanese entrepreneur named Fusajiro Yamauchi began the business that would ultimately become Nintendo in 1889. The business, which was once known as Nintendo Kopai, initially produced a card game named Hanafuda. The name of the card game is alternatively translated as flower cards. These playing cards were constructed from mulberry tree bark and had images painted on them. Yamauchi eventually opened 2 Nintendo stores where the game was sold. The handmade Hanafuda cards were still permitted because they did not have any numbers on them and were typically not directly associated with gambling, even though gambling was prohibited at the time, and all playing cards with numerical symbols were as a result outlawed by the Japanese government. To meet demand, the firm had to increase staff once these cards became so well liked. As time went on, Nintendo began to produce an increasing number of card designs. Eventually, they teamed up with what is now Japan Tobacco to sell their cards at cigarette stores across the country, Japan. Yamauchi took tremendous satisfaction in the quality and design of its company's card game, which helped the early Nintendo gain a lot of popularity with its users. Nintendo quickly established a reputation for excellence and quickly overtook other gaming companies in Japan. As a result of internal family politics and the retirement of the founder in 1929, the business was eventually renamed Yamauchi Nintendo and Company by its new president, Sekiro Kaneda Yamauchi, who also just so happened to marry the daughter of the former president Fusajiro, according to Nintendo fandom. It is uncertain if his marriage played a role in how he was hired. Regardless, the company's latest action did not stray too far from its previous direction. Without getting into internal politics, Nintendo's third president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, who is Sekiro's grandson, led the organization into a new age by becoming the first corporation in Japan to manufacture playing cards from plastic. These plastic playing cards would bring the firm widespread praise and continue its position as an avant-garde brand in the entertainment industry. For the business, international acclaim was not long after. A few years into his rule, Hiroshi decided to change Nintendo Kopai. Making plastic-coated cards to compete with current U.S. imports was one of his first steps. Up until that point, all cards produced in Japan were uncoated. Nintendo Kopai was the first company to alter the norm. The next significant step for Hiroshi was to reach a license arrangement with Walt Disney. They were able to promote to children and families and use Disney characters on their cards thanks to the arrangement. It also resulted in the development of a new system of distribution that allowed them to get their cards into bigger department and toy stores, even though the launch went well. Hiroshi found it difficult to grow and compete with contemporary American imports. He concluded that there was not much potential for market expansion and that it was time to start up new firms. Hiroshi decided to exclude the word Kopai from the company name and go public to raise money for growth. After that, he founded a cab business, a love hotel, and an instant rice product. While Nintendo lost a lot and accrued debt as a result of its endeavors, it did generate some cash. Hiroshi stopped operating and began to consider a new business idea that would make use of its connections to department and toy stores. Operations had already expanded from small shops to factories and offices in the Kyoto area at that time. It was nevertheless viewed by many as being tiny and perhaps undesirable to work for when compared to the corporations in Tokyo, but for a recent graduate in electrical engineering, it was their only opportunity for a career, so much so that they decided to accept a job as a janitor instead of using their degree. Without them, Nintendo would not have gone on to release some of the finest video game platforms ever. Hiroshi engaged outstanding university graduates to assist him in innovating when Nintendo became insolvent. Gunpei Yokoi, a recent electrical engineering graduate, was one exception. Throughout his employment, Gunpei occasionally produced items for his amusement. As fate would have it, Hiroshi Yamauchi happened to be visiting the facility on a fateful day and took notice of one of Gunpei's creations, the Ultra Hand, an extending arm that could grasp objects at a distance. On September 10, 1941, Gunpei Yokoi was born in Kyoto, Japan. Although there is a good chance you have never heard of him, chances are good that, as a member of Generation Y, you have used one of his creations at some point. Yokoi began tinkering with machine parts and produced a toy with an extending arm. Shotaro Yokoi Hiroshi Yamauchi, the head of Nintendo, saw Yokoi's creation in one of those cosmic moments. Because Yamauchi was looking well outside the core card industry, Nintendo was also changing. The creation of Yokoi was the ideal thing to get the transition going. Yamauchi desired that the Yokoi innovation be available in shops in time for the approaching holiday. In response to Yamauchi's request, Yokoi improved the toy and made the Ultra Hand available. In the end, the Ultra Hand sold more than 1.2 million pieces. Now, Nintendo is a toy business, and one of its newest stars was Yokoi. Gunpei continued to have success at Nintendo after this, though. He also invented the Ultra Machine, a machine that could toss baseballs, and the popular Love Tester, a device that could gauge a boy and girl's amorous sentiments toward one another. Of course, that was not factual at all, but it was still entertaining. Following these early accomplishments, Gunpei would again show to be a priceless asset for the business. On a business trip in 1979, Gunpei Yokoi had the idea for a portable video game while riding the bullet train. He saw another traveler playing about with a little LCD calculator to pass the time. This discovery and the concept that followed it gave rise to Game & Watch, a genuine game changer. Nintendo released the first Game & Watch, a line of portable video games created by Yokoi a year later, in 1980. Due to the lack of replaceable cartridges in these systems, the hardware was bound to the game. Ball, the first Game & Watch game, was a huge hit and was sold all over the world. Yokoi created the present cross D-pad design in 1982 for a Donkey Kong version. The concept, which has gained a lot of traction, was patented by Nintendo and was honored with a Technology and Engineering Emmy Award. Yokoi was given the responsibility of leading R&D-1, Nintendo's primary research and development team, in 1984. Yokoi's team provided both hardware and software to the historic system as the NES project within Nintendo gained momentum. Metroid and Kid Icarus, two significant NES games, were also produced by R&D-1. Yokoi and the other team members of R&D-1 began working on a new project when some of the team members broke off to join Intelligent Systems, a first-party developer for Nintendo. The Game & Watch series demonstrated that when the price was kept within a reasonable level, portable electronic games were incredibly popular. The Game Boy, a monochrome handheld device that utilized cartridges, like the NES, instead of storing the game on board the system, was created with this as its guiding principle. The monochrome display caused some anxiety inside Nintendo, but Yokoi insisted on it because he wanted to keep the price of the Game Boy cheap and prevent it from consuming batteries. The Game Boy was a huge hit when it debuted in 1989. Both in Japan and in America, the machine was sold out. The inclusion of Tetris, a famous puzzle game that was extremely well-liked all across the world, is also substantially responsible for the machine's popularity in America. With over 118 million units sold globally, the Game Boy quickly rose to the top of Nintendo's best-selling products. But the Game Boy Color, which was developed after Yokoi departed Nintendo, is included in this statistic. Super Mario Land and Dr. Mario, two of the best-selling games for the system, were created by R&D-1 in addition to the hardware. After the release of Super Mario, Nintendo never looked back, and it contributed so much to our childhood nostalgia. That's it for the day, guys. We hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have ever owned a Ford, let us know about the experience in the comments below. Also, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more amazing business biographies. And we'll see you at the next one.